If you're looking for the perfect lead system for short to medium range, then this is the one. And I'm going to show you some neat little tricks that make it super effective, safe and quick to use. Right, I'm going to grab an inline lead here. So this is how these leads come. This is a 3.5 ounce and 99 gram lead, and you've got this plastic insert and you've got this little tail rubber on the top. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tail rubber off and I'm going to pop out that plastic insert, because I never fish an inline lead with a plastic insert. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of this rig tubing, and in order to make it easier to thread into the tail rubber, I'm going to cut the rig tubing at 45 degrees as well. That'll make it easier to pop the rig tubing, and you might want to just wet the rig tubing out. You don't want to put saliva inside the rig tubing, that's going to ruin how this is going to work. And thread the tail rubber along so that the rig tubing pokes out the end like that. Next we want to go to the other end of the rig tubing, and we're going to take our inline lead and we're going to thread the rig tubing through the inline lead and just very gently pull that in there like that. So we've got our inline lead, we've got our tail rubber, and we've got our little bit of rig tubing poking out the end. So I know what you're thinking, why on earth are you taking the time and trouble to do all that before you've even threaded the rig tubing on the main line? Well, the reason for this is going to make the job of threading the main line through the rig tubing much easier. We've gone to the top end of the tubing. Now this is a classic mistake that lots of anglers make. It's no good just holding the rig tubing horizontally like that and taking the main line like that, and yeah, you'll be able to start it off like that, but you're not going to get very far. You need to make gravity work for you rather than against you. So rather than trying to thread it horizontally like that, so what we're going to do is we're going to lower the lead down, and then we've got the top end, and you can see what the lead is doing. The lead is holding that rig tubing perfectly straight, and we've got some nice clean fresh main line through there. So that line is flying through there. I've done that in less than, it's about 20 seconds actually. So the line's poked out the bottom, and yeah, if you follow some basic steps, threaded rig tubing is really easy. Now, the next thing we have to do is we have to get that tail rubber out, and you should just be able to push on the rig tubing like that and that should pop out. All depends on what the fit is between the rig tubing and the tail rubber. You might have to hook a little baiting needle in there just to kind of grab hold of that tubing, but that's come out nice and easy, so no problem there. Right, then we need to add a swivel. So I'm just going to grab one of these swivels. This could be a quick chain swivel, it could be a ring swivel, but I'm just going to be fishing very basic supple braided rig, and all I need to do is to use a regular size 8 swivel and tie it on. And the connection knot I'm going to use for this is just going to be a good old-fashioned blood knot in. I found that the blood knot with 0.45 0.50 mono to be phenomenally strong actually. You don't need anything complicated, you just need to tie it down correctly. So we get to about that stage, hook on my rig puller there, and then we just pull off a bit of main line, wrap the main line around the lighter, give the knot a good amount of wetting, a slow steady pull. Yeah, that's gone down nice. That I'm giving that a really good pull. There we go. No kinking of the main line there. That's gone really sweet as a nut. If you look carefully, the knot has gone on a little taper, and if you've correctly tightened up a blood knot, it will be a little bit tapered like that, so really nice. Right, then I'm going to cut off that tag, and I'm going to leave a few mil. No need to blob it because I've pulled that knot really tight. The next little trick I'm going to add here is a pickup indicator. Now, you can make a pickup indicator by just leaving the tag end of the main line long. That's absolutely an option, but I've got into the habit nowadays of adding a little bit of braid and tie it to the top swivel there, and I'm going to show you how to do that next. So you don't need anything fancy here. There's no strength involved in this, and all I'm going to do, I'm tying it to the same end of the swivel as the main line, and I'm just going to use a 3-turn uni knot to do that. So if you imagine, that's the length of the inline lead that we're using. So with the swivel positioned on the inline lead like that, I'm going to cut that off 3 centimeters above the top of the lead at this stage. I might make that shorter, but we'll go with 3 centimeters at the minute. Let's start pulling this together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull on the main line, and when I pull on the main line, we start to bring the swivel closer to the rig tubing. So the rig tubing has met the swivel knot there. We're just going to sit a tail rubber over the swivel like that. There we go. Now if I pull that rig tubing too far out, then it's going to lose connection, but I can't push it too far in because of the length of the swivel, and then we've got the top of the main line knot there as well. So you just want to make sure that that rig tubing is fully home. You can't push it in any further like that. And what we're left with is this little braided tail sticking out, and then we've got somewhere to tie our main line to on that swivel. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set this pickup indicator as if we were about to cast out, row it out. So what we do is we fold it back into the rig tubing like that, and then we pass the whole length of it through the inline lead. We just gently push that tail rubber into the inline lead like that. Give the pickup indicator just a little tug back there, and that is going to sit up outside the top there. And what's going to happen is any amount of force from the carp on that swivel is going to dislodge that tail rubber. It's going to pop out like that, and then that pickup indicator falls away. If you wind in and a carp's attached, then yeah, you've caught a carp. But if you wind in and you haven't caught a carp and that pickup indicator is exposed like that, it means that a carp has picked up the rig, ejected the rig, and he's gotten away with it. You've been done. So that's how I know whether I'm getting picked up and ejected. So before I make the cast, I just want to make sure that he's all properly set. So I'm nipping that in ever so slightly, very low amount of force, and then you can see it just naturally comes to a stop there. So why is it important to take that insert out? Well, I've set one up here with the insert in place, and if I hold the lead there and I just pull on this hook link, it requires more force to pull that out. And if that was a carp, the carp is going to be able to swing the lead around and basically throw the rig out. It will pull free with a bit of force, quite a bit of force, and then what we've got, the running element becomes the insert and the rig tubing, and that does not run freely at all. It's really, I'm pulling quite hard here. It's not a free running rig. It's a semi-fixed rig, and all manufacturers design their inline leads to be semi-fixed. I haven't used a semi-fixed rig for 15 years. I take the insert out because I want to set my rig up as a running lead system. And I do this because I found that running rigs are just more effective at catching carp consistently than semi-fixed rigs. So semi-fixed rigs are perfectly safe, they're just not as effective as a free running rig. And how this works, as soon as the carp picks up the rig and tightens down the hook link, he'll feel the resistance, and his first instinct is to shake his head. Dunk. There you go. And the lead is sliding off. The lead's done its job. It's got the rig out in position, it's held it there while the carp came along, and then it's just given that faintest little resistance, that little prick, and then the carp's hit it and it's off. All of the hooking is done by the mono and by the semi-tight clutch. Each one of these fish have been absolutely nailed before I've even got to the rod. All I've had to do is widen down, engage the bait runner, no striking, gentle lift into the fish, they're on, and they do not drop off. Amazingly simple, amazingly effective. I think what many carp anglers have lost sight of, the fact that mono is just a giant elastic band. I'm holding about a metre of mono there, And if I go from there to there, we've got lots of elasticity. Well, I'll say lots, we've got 15 mil anyway, with just a few pound of force. If I pop that lead off, so that the lead is just free running, look at the amount of elasticity that the lead is building into this system as well. All that lead is doing is just adding a nice little weight, and when the fish pulls, the lead rises up, got a little bit of extra sponge in the mono as well. It's incredibly effective. Hook pulls are a thing of the past with running rigs, if your hooks are sharp. Don't forget, it's not only the weight of the lead that's pulling the line down, you've got the weight of the water. Water's heavy, water is pushing on the mono that's running out to the rig. All of these forces combine to work for you. On a semi-fixed system, if I push this lead tightly into here, so it's like a semi-fixed, on a semi-fixed rig, the lead stays a fixed distance from the carp's head. And when the carp shakes its head, then it has a lever. It uses the lead to basically lever out the hook. If you take that lever point away from him by having the lead slide away, then you've got a far, far better chance of landing everything you hook, because you've got so much elasticity there. And you never lose the lead. In the event of a mainline failure, if I just shake that lead off there, if that was broke there, that lead's gone. We've been fishing inline leads at the fishery for 14 years, and you know, when I do the drain down in the winter, I don't see a load of inline leads still online. I'll find the lead, yep, and I might find the rig, yeah. The two are not connected, and if the lead is free from the rig, then the lead is safe, and we can make it doubly safe by using a barbless hook, of course. So imagine a worst case scenario. You've caught a carp and you're playing it, and all of a sudden your main line fails. Well, what's going to happen is that because that lead is running, that lead shakes down there and the lead drops off. Now, okay, you lost the lead. You've also lost the carp. If that's disconnected there, then yes, the carp is hooked and he's towing around a hook link, a swivel, a little bit of tubing and some mainline. But by using a barbless hook, the only thing holding that barbless hook in the carp's mouth is tension, be it tension from the lead, tension from the elasticity of the mono, tension from the rod, tension from the reel. Once that tension is gone, that barbless hook will fall out. This is why I'm a massive fan of barbless, because no matter what happens, the carp is safe. The combination of running rigs and barbless hooks is really powerful. If you look at the elastic effect that this running lead is giving us, I'm only holding out my arms 1.6 metres. My arms aren't that long, 1.6 metres. Look how well that lead going up and down, and it's just pulling that hook in all the time. Yeah. Imagine what that effect is like in a fishing situation at 100 yards, 50 yards, 40 yards. You've got a huge amount of elasticity. It's actually really, really hard to lose a carp using a running lead system. One of the things you're taught when you first using barbless is do not let the pressure go off the rod. You must always maintain contact with the fish to keep that hook being pulled in. I got myself in a mess a few times on the river this year, and it's all gone Pete Tong, and I've literally lost contact with the fish. I've got no pressure on the fish whatsoever, because I've had to sort other things out. I'm trying to film myself as well, which is ridiculous, I know, but the fish has not dropped off. I've still landed everywhere because that ledger, that running ledger, is just holding the hook in for me. It's doing the fishing for me. It's doing the playing of the fish for me. Right, let's go back to where we started. Why did I add that tungsten sinker? What is it doing? This is a medium-sized sinker. Whatever make of sinker that you choose to use, the only thing that matters is that the diameter of the sinker should be no greater than that of the rig tubing. So that's absolutely fine. And then we just pull that through carefully. Then what we need to do is we need to wet the main line just lightly, and by doing that we lubricate the main line. If you do this too quick and you do it dry, you can actually make the sinker so hot that it'll melt, it'll cut it in two. I'm going to be adding a metre of tubing, so I want the sinker to be a metre away from the end of the line. If we leave that there, that's not going to do us much good. I'm not adding it to make the line heavy, I'm adding it to keep the rig tubing in place. Without that sinker, what's going to happen is during the fight, you're going to be playing the carp and the fish is going to be bashing around against the tubing, and if I just shake that a few times, there we go. The rig tubing has pulled out of that little tail rubber. And I'm sure if you've ever used rig tubing, you don't have to do much carp fishing to know how many times the rig tubing has slid up and away from the swivel of the main line. If the rig tubing slides up, by whatever distance it slides up, it means we've got bare main line between here and the lead. And this means that we've got no protection for the fish that we're playing, and we've got no abrasion resistance either. What we want to do is we want to take this little tungsten sinker and slide it down until it meets the top of the tubing. And in that position there, it's preventing the rig tubing from rising up. And no matter how hard I shake that, the rig tubing stays in place. The sinker is not there to add extra weight above the rig tubing. It's to hold the tubing in place to protect the carp's flanks during the fight and to prevent you from being prematurely cut off by anything nasty on the lake bottom. If you add a little sinker like this to the top of your rig tubing, there is a very, very important test that you have to do, especially if you're fishing with an inline lead like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the tail rubber out, I'm going to slide the rig tubing through, and you can see we're getting to the top now. That should absolutely fly through that. If the top of your lead is damaged, then even if you've only got a very, very small difference in the diameter of that and the diameter of that, then this lead will hang up. You need to make sure that your lead is not damaged. If your lead is damaged, then change it, buy a new one, or trim it up, drill it out, do whatever you need to do to fix it. Do not use a sinker that is bigger than the rig tubing. That is an absolute no-no, because if you do that, if that sinker hangs up there on the rig tubing, then you've just created a tether rig, a death rig, and we really don't want to be fishing with one of them. So a little trick to hold the tubing down by the swivel would be to use some dental floss. You could use a bit of pole elastic if you've got some of that. And all I'm going to do is tie something called a 4-turn water knot. It's also used as a sliding knot for float fishing, for sea fishing, coarse fishing. And I literally whip the floss through the loop and over the main line as well. And that's going to make it grip the mono. Slide it down till it touches the top of the tubing. Pull it tight, and that little bit of dental floss is enough to stop the tubing from sliding up during the cast, during the fight, and that will just help protect the carp's flanks. What you've got to make sure is that the lead can pass safely over it. It should just fly over like that. So how should you pack this away so that you can recreate it quickly, easily and safely with the minimum number of knots? What you're going to do is you're going to take the little tungsten sinker, just going to wet the main line, I'm going to slide the sinker up, and we just need to slide it 20-30 centimetres. Then we're going to take our lead, I'm going to slide the lead a little way up the tubing. It can just be a little bit tricky sometimes getting the tail rubber out off the swivel there. Once that's off the swivel, we just gently pull the main line through the tubing like that. That gives us access to this original mainline knot, and this is the cut that we want to make. We want to take that mainline knot and chop straight through it like that. We leave our little pickup indicator in place there, that's fine, that can stay there. Then we're going to take our tail rubber and we're going to pull that off like that. Then we're going to take our inline lead, we're going to hold on to the rig tubing, we're going to slide the inline lead off. And then the most important thing you're going to do is you're going to take the end of the main line, you're going to do 1, 2 overhand knots like that, and just pull that down so that you've got a nice neat little double knot. And what that knot means is that when I pull the main line, that knot is going to prevent the main line disappearing up the rig tubing. So you never have to rethread that rig tubing ever again, unless you actually get cut off above the main line. But if you're just going session to session, water to water, this is what is going to save you a load of time and trouble. You do not have to rethread your rig tubing. The little sinker that you've slid up out the way, that can sit 10-20 centimeters above the rig tubing. That really doesn't matter. So all we do at the end of the session is we're going to wind the main line back onto the reel through the rod rings, and we're up to the little tungsten sinker. The sinker's going to go onto the spool, the rig tubing's going to go onto the spool, and then we're going to be left with the rig tubing like that. And hopefully, if you're lucky, you should be able to just nip the main line around your line clip like that, maybe once, maybe twice. If you can't do that for whatever reason, what you might have to do is you might have to slide the rig tubing back out the way to give you a bit more line to play with so that it lines up with the line clip. I've been a little bit lucky here. If you leave 20 centimeters of tag end in between that knot and where you cut it off, then you're always going to be able to find your line clip position wherever you go. So with the rig tubing safely wound onto the spool like that, we can put the spool into its base position, fold down the handle and take the rod apart. So there we go, all neatly packed away, no lead banging around, no rig hung up, it's all put away. Yeah, it's going to take you a couple of minutes to do it, but if you want to use inline leads, and inline leads is a phenomenally effective method for short to medium range, then this is how you should do it. Just take the lead off, roll the rig tubing onto the spool like this, and all will be well. So why should you use this system? Well, for a start, it's going to save you money. You're not going to lose a lead every time you hook a carp. You're going to get your lead back. Better for the environment and better for your wallet. I've been using running lead systems to trick some wily carp over the last 15 years, and they find it very difficult to deal with. They're used to being able to use the weight of the lead against you, and with this system they can't. They're going to give it a little shake, the lead's going to slide away, and you're going to get a massive amount of indication, and they're on. They're nailed. They can shake their head as hard as they like. They are not going to be able to throw the rig out. This rig is perfect for fishing estate lakes with a whole range of bottom types. Could be sandy, silty, gravelly, doesn't matter. This rig will present over anything. It's also adaptable for any range. You can fish it in the margins, short range, medium range. The only thing that's going to limit you is how far you can cast it, because inline leads do not cast well. They're just not aerodynamic. In terms of rigs, you can use it with just about anything. You just have to be a bit careful as to what substrate you're fishing over. If you're fishing over rock hard ground, then you can use whatever you want. You can use stiff or supple, it really doesn't matter. If you're fishing over something softer, then I'd probably pair it with a supple braided rig. It's a very popular presentation. In terms of getting the rig into play, you can do whatever you want. You can underarm it, cast it, bait boat it, drop it from a rowing boat, or pole it out. If you pair this lead system with a supple braided rig, a short rig, then you can fold the whole lot inside a solid PVA bag, and then you can bomb it into weed and cast it anywhere. If you need to fish at range with this rig, then that's the way I would do it. I'd use a solid PVA bag, smash it out as hard as you can, and it'll always be fishing for you. So I've just cracked open this fresh pack of rig tubing, and occasionally, it depends on how these things are packaged, but we can see that the two ends of this rig tubing have been shut in the box. Now, if you don't cut these off, then there is no way on earth you are going to be able to thread that. So job one is to cut those off neatly. So I'm going to add some rig tubing to some 25-pound armour line. This is the 0.45 armour line, and this rig tubing is 0.75mm internal diameter, so we should have absolutely no problem getting this main line to go through there. But the first thing I have to do is I have to cut that kink off, and I'm going to cut it off at an angle because that's going to help us thread it on. Now before we get to the rig tubing, I am going to add a little something here. This is a medium-sized sinker. Whatever make of sinker that you choose to use, the only thing that matters is that the diameter of the sinker should be no greater than that of the rig tubing. So that's absolutely fine. And then we just pull that through carefully. Then what we need to do is we need to wet the main line just lightly, and by doing that we lubricate the main line. If you do this too quick and you do it dry, you can actually make the sinker so hot that it'll melt, it'll cut it in two. I'm going to be adding 1 metre of tubing, so I want the sinker to be 1 metre away from the end of the line. I want to use 1 metre of rig tubing, and this is a 2 metre piece of rig tubing. So why am I using 1 metre of rig tubing? Well, we've got some very big fish here. We've got carp to 55 pounds, we've got some massive catfish as well in excess of 100 pounds, and I really need to make sure that during the fight that the rig tubing is protecting their flanks. Also, we've got some rocks, we've got some gravel in there, and I'm certainly going to be putting some rigs on some hard spots. The armour line is very good, very strong, very abrasion resistant, but I want the extra confidence of having some rig tubing acting as a protector over the last metre at the business end of the rig to prevent an early cut-off. Now, depending on the nature of the venue that you're fishing, 50 centimetres might be enough. Whatever you need to do, do that.